Exclusive contracted novel by Feilu Novel Network. Tennis. The world's #1 Mang man, join. He, the North Abyss. When someone is only 1.6 meters or 1.7 meters old at the age of 13, he has grown to an astonishing 185 meters. A body full of tendons and flesh, weighing 200 pounds. Wherever you go, it is the focus of countless people's attention. A 5-year-old child once cried in fear because of a sentence he said, "How are you, little friend?" The teacher saw him and trembled as he asked, "Hello. May I ask if you are the parent of that student?" The Equality Institute widened its eyes upon seeing him. "Are you 13 years old?" Gishijiro looked around for a while and said, "Good kid, he's even stronger than me." However, the most outrageous thing is that the Ice Emperor started school. Shirhu smiled and asked, "Sorry, we are from the junior high school, and the university department is next door." Beiming smiled and said, "I'm only 13 years old." Shirhu. Trace department. Kotaro. They, who do not believe in evil, investigated the information of Beiming and found that this guy is really only 13 years old. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. The Birth of the Strongest Man. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Tokyo Metropolitan Government. Chengnan. An abandoned stadium under the elevated bridge. Bang. Bang. On the court, a figure is continuously hitting tennis balls facing the wall. The owner of the figure is a 13 or 14-year-old boy. Of course. This is just his age, but the appearance of the youth does not match his age at all. At a height of 1.85 meters, with a bare upper body and terrifying rock-like muscles, as well as a face that looks somewhat handsome but completely unlike that of 13 or 14 years old. It's said that high school students are a bit low. But in reality, teenagers are only 13 or 14 years old. To be precise, it is 13 years old. Bang. Bang. The boy's momentum was strong and heavy, and every hit was like a shell, hitting the wall with a loud bang. Fortunately, the wall was made of cement, which was hard enough. If not, where can we bear it? But even so, after being bombarded by the boy for hundreds of times, the wall finally became unbearable and exploded. Hula. Countless broken stones fell down. It's broken again. This wall really doesn't withstand beating. Speaking of which, this is already the 530th wall. The boy couldn't help but complain a few times as he seemed dissatisfied with the load-bearing capacity of this wall. Afterwards, he walked to the side, drew a bucket of water from the dry well, and poured it on his head. Hula. With a bucket of water on his body, the young man suddenly felt a lot cooler. Then, he picked up a nearby towel and wiped the water stains on his lower body. Looking at his own body, he chuckled lightly. Speaking of which, the body given by the system is really terrifying. At the age of 13, I have such strange powers. But this body really looks a bit old, and besides, it's too burly. It doesn't look like a teenager of 13 or 14 at all, even 18 looks young. More like a, reckless man. That's right. This is the young man's positioning of his own body. This is completely the configuration of Mangfu. He is covered in flesh and tendons, and his height is much higher than his peers. Other people at his age, 170 is considered good. But what about him? Just 1 or 8 or 5. This height, at his age, can definitely be considered top-notch. However, jokingly speaking, the young man was still very satisfied with his own body. He is very clear about what world he has traveled through. Tennis Prince. A world that specializes in tennis. Here, The strong are respected, and with strong strength, one has the right to speak. Having a strong body gives one an innate advantage. That's right. A teenager is a traveler. As for his name, it is also very loud. Beiming Yuan. About 3 years ago, I traveled to this world and inherited this rugged figure. Open the system. What catches the eye is the name of the system. The strongest Mang Fu system. It can be seen that the system wants to turn him into a reckless man. However, Beiming doesn't matter, whether it's a rough man or a handsome guy, as long as they are strong enough. When the Equality Institute was young, it was so handsome that it didn't make itself look like an uncle just to become stronger. There is also Shijiro, who is born with a middle-aged face and looks fierce and evil, not still respected by countless people. So being reckless is not scary, what's important is being strong enough. Beiming Yuan. 13 years old. Speed. 4. Power. 8. Spiritual power. 6. Technology. 5. Physical strength. 6. 5-dimensional total. 29. Oh. Is the 5 dimensions already at 29? Not bad. Looking at his 5-dimensional attributes, Beiming couldn't help but nod in satisfaction. He vaguely remembers that when he first traveled to this world, his 5 dimensions were only 15 points. In 3 years, the 5 dimensions have been increased by 14 points, which cannot be said to be terrifying, but at least Beiming is very satisfied. After all, even in the original work, as U17 and number 2, Shuji Nakajima, his 5 dimensions are only 27 o'clock. Of course. The 5 dimensions can only roughly reflect a person's strength, and cannot be the only basis for judging the strength of 2 people. It's like planting an island. Although the 5 dimensions are 2 points lower than him, when it comes to actual combat, he will definitely suffer, and Beiming still knows this. But anyway, his current strength is completely sufficient in junior high school, even in U17. Except for the top few, no one else should be his opponent. Furthermore, his strength is not stagnant. After all, his body is better understood by Beiming than anyone else, and it is not an exaggeration to say he is a monster. Yakujin's physical fitness can be considered terrifying. But compared to him, it is still far behind. System, what time is it now? Turning off his personal panel, Beiming asked the system. Half a year before the plot started, the top 8 of the national competition is currently underway. Are we currently in the quarterfinals of the national competition? That's about it, and I'm about to start too. With a slight curve at the corner of his mouth, Beiming put on his jacket, put on his racket, and left. The reason why he practiced so hard for 3 years is to accumulate strength. Now that his strength has accumulated, he naturally wants to start his journey of domination. As for the school. Just the Ice Emperor. Tokyo Metropolitan Arena Stadium is the venue for this year's national competition. At this moment, the quarterfinals between Lehigh University and Ice Emperor are underway. Always win. Lehigh. Let's go. Let's go. Lehigh. Ice Emperor. Ice Emperor. Around. Both team members are shouting and cheering for their own team members. Bang. Bang. On the field, the 4 figures constantly clashed. Finally. As one of the players wearing a yellow jacket took the ball, the referee's voice rang out. The competition is over. Lehigh won with a score of 6.3. How strong. Faced with the Ice Emperor, Lehigh can still achieve 2 consecutive victories. Indeed, it's too strong. Although we have only recently reached the quarterfinals, I'm afraid this year's champion will be captured by Lehigh again. Indeed, Lehigh is too strong. If they win the championship again this year, they will be the 2nd consecutive champions in the national competition. In my impression, achieving this honor is truly terrifying for Jushido High School and Tachibana University. Around. Countless people were discussing there. Lehigh was already very strong and dominated Kanto for many years. Last year, under the leadership of the three giants of Tachibana, Yukimura, Makita, and Liu, they even achieved the championship of the national competition. And in the second year, which is this year, intuition tells everyone that the championship is likely to be won by Lehigh again. In the Tachibana camp, a blue-haired boy with a coat draped over his shoulder said to Marui and Hu Lang, who had returned, "Thank you for your hard work." The youth is the head of the Tachibana department, Yukimura Seishi. Everything is to achieve our second consecutive championship in Lehigh. The two of them looked steadfastly at each other. Yukimura nodded in satisfaction. Chapter 2. Who is this guy? You are listening at Novel Full.audio. On the other side. On the side of the Ice Emperor, there was a dead silence. In the spirit of showcasing their skills in this year's national competition, they were unexpectedly defeated by Lehigh in the quarterfinals and unable to counterattack, which made everyone's hearts sink to the bottom. What are you panicking about? At this moment, a loud voice sounded. Suddenly, everyone's gaze was fixed on the gray-haired boy sitting in the chair. Ashikaga. And the main choices such as Ninzu and Xiangri are looking at the young man with burning eyes. The youth, also known as the Minister of the Ice Emperor, is a man named Jingwu Suebu, who commands the Ice Emperor's army of 200 men and stands tall at the pinnacle of the Ice Emperor. Feeling the low mood of the Ice Emperor crowd, he sternly said, "The competition is not over yet." Yeah. The competition is not over yet. Tobu's words immediately boosted the once sluggish Ice Emperor's momentum. That's right. At present, it's only 0.2. They haven't lost yet, Ice Emperor. Moreover, giving up in this way is not the style of their Ice Emperor. However, imagination is beautiful, but reality is extremely cruel. Singles 3. Renzhua, who appeared on the field, was repeatedly defeated by Makita and lost the game in less than 20 minutes. So far. In the quarterfinals, Ice Emperor lost 0.3 to Lehigh University. Surprisingly swept the Ice Emperor. The gap is still too big. Did you lose? Looking at the devastating defeat of Ninzu, a hint of desolation flashed in Tobu's eyes. Actually, after falling behind 0.2, Tobu's heart also sank to the bottom. But as a minister and the soul of the Ice Emperor, he cannot behave like others, as this will disrupt the morale of the army. And now, the game has come to an end, and the emotions suppressed by Tobu have finally been revealed. Even if there was no deliberate expression, whether it was the returning ninja, or Asahi, Marui, and others, they could feel the unwillingness of Ashikaga. Let's go. But Tobu didn't say much and got up and left first. Hey! Renzu, Xiangri, and others glanced at each other, sighed, and followed in the footsteps of Akamoto. Damn it! On the way back, Xiangri, who had been holding back for a long time, finally burst out. Others. Although he didn't show the same attitude as Xiangri, he still felt a bit unwilling in his eyes. They had been preparing for this year's national competition for a long time, and even during the summer vacation, they held a training camp. Unexpectedly, they lost so miserably and were sealed 3.0 by Lehigh University. All right. At this moment, Tobu spoke up, interrupting everyone's slump. If you lose, then you lose. Our Ice Emperor is not someone who can't afford to lose. If you lose this time, you can win back the next time. Ashikaga. Looking at the trace that had not been hit at all, everyone immediately ignited their fighting spirit again. After returning, strengthen your training. Next year's national competition will continue to challenge Haida with color. Yes. Everyone responded in unison. Is it still in color? However, Kotaro, who followed the team back to school, shook his head. Also in color. It's not easy to talk about. After all, it's not just them who are making progress, their opponents are also there. Kotaro is well aware that even next year, this result may still be the same. Even if he doesn't get 3.0 from Tachibana University, he will definitely not win against Tachibana University. But Kotaro did not say these words, which was not conducive to everyone's fighting spirit on the one hand, and on the other hand, he believed in Ashikaga. Even if they cannot defeat Tachibana next year, he believes that Tobu will definitely lead them into higher fields. Half an hour later, Ashikaga led everyone back to the Ice Emperor, and then he began organizing everyone to start training. At the same time, outside the school gate of the Ice Emperor, a sturdy figure appeared here. His appearance immediately caught the attention of many passing Ice Emperor students. Who is this person? Is he from the high school department? He's too tall, isn't he? Also, this kind of physique is too burly. High school. I think there's more to it. It's obvious that you're an adult, right? But even if I'm an adult, my physique is too strong. If I get punched by this guy, I think I'll be seriously injured. Serious injury. Hee hee. You also look up to yourself too much. I estimate you will have to die in place on the spot. The one being discussed by the students of the Ice Emperor is Beiming. Looking at the extremely luxurious and aristocratic school in front of him, he grinned. Is this the Ice Emperor? As for the discussions of passing students, Beiming did not pay attention. He had anticipated such a scene early on. After all, his body cannot attract the attention of others. Even after taking over this body for 3 years, Beiming would sometimes marvel at his body. Let's first inquire where the Ice Emperor tennis department is. His gaze swept over the roadside one by one, and in the end, Beiming's gaze fixed on a young man. And the other party, seeing Beiming looking at him, both legs were limp. It's not his fault either. With Beiming's physique, anyone who watches is not panicked. What do you want to do? I didn't provoke you. It was evident that the other party was frightened, and before Beiming could approach, he became afraid. Don't be afraid. Beiming stepped forward and smiled, I have no ill intentions. So you want it. But even though Beiming said so, the other party still felt a bit scared. I would like to ask how to get to the Ice Emperor tennis department. Beiming asked. Tennis department. The other person was stunned for a moment, and then he looked up and down at Beiming and tentatively said, Are you? I am a new transfer student. Beiming smiled and said. The other party is confused. The passing students were also confused. New transfer students. This guy is actually a junior high school student like them. People who realize this have their mouths wide open, and for a moment, they don't know how to describe their emotions. What? Is there a problem? Beiming looked at the other person's stunned expression and couldn't help but smile and ask. No. For a long time, the other party finally regained consciousness and reached out to point in a direction. Keep going along this road, then take a turn and walk another 50 meters to reach the tennis department. Thank you. After receiving the desired response, Beiming smiled and reached out to pat the other person's shoulder, but this slap almost shattered their bones. Looking at the departing Beiming and then at his almost scattered skeleton, the person couldn't help but say, Monster. Chapter 3. Who will come next? You are listening at novelfull.audio. This translator is experiencing an error, please try another translator. Chapter 4. The Chaotic Ice Emperor. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Puff. 3 minutes later, foam, like the previous Shirhu, knelt down on the ground. Hiss. Seeing this, all the members of the Ice Emperor team on site took a deep breath of air. It's another 3 minutes. This guy is too scary, isn't he? For a moment, the gaze of all the members of the Ice Emperor turned to the tall and powerful figure on the field, including many regular players such as Xiangri and Xilang. What kind of person is this guy? This person. In the midst of the selection, a young man with glasses and medium long hair frowned as he looked at Beiming in the field. A completely unfamiliar face, but with terrifying strength, both Shehu and Feng lost within 3 minutes. Additionally, what is the purpose of the other party coming to the Ice Emperor? A simple challenge. I'm afraid not. After some thought, he ultimately chose to step forward. Be patient. On the side, Xiangri looked at him with a worried expression. The strength of ninju is strong, and among the Ice Emperors, the only one who can truly suppress the head of ninju is Tobu. But Xiangri knows that there is still a big gap between him and the person in front of him. After all, the other party easily defeated Feng and Shehu. There's no way. The other party has stepped on our face, so naturally I can't just stand there. Besides, when I go find Tobu, at most with my strength, I can only procrastinate, he said, shaking his head with patience trace part. Xiangri hesitated for a moment, then his face showed joy. Yeah. They still have a trace, and with Trace's strength, they can definitely defeat this person. I got it. Xian knew that he was only willing to procrastinate and asked him to go find Okamoto. After saying these words, Xiangri hurriedly left. At the same time, Renzudi padded into the field and looked at the tall and powerful figure across from him. He said, "Next, I'll fight you." It doesn't matter. Beiming leaned his racket against his shoulder and looked at Ninzu with a smile on his face, saying, "It's the same for anyone." He naturally recognized the person in front of him, Renzu Yushe. In terms of strength, he was stronger than Shehu and Fengdu, and was undoubtedly the second in command among the Ice Emperor. But in the eyes of Beiming, the result may not be much better than the previous Feng and Shehu. Looking at Beiming, who had not paid any attention to him at all, he couldn't help but tighten his heart. Then, he glanced at the direction of Sun's departure and whispered, "I hope Xiangri can find the trace as soon as possible." On the other side, Otaro's office. While taking the time to read the plan book by Okamoto, Kotaro arrived at the windowsill. At the next moment, his brow furrowed. He found that Shehu and his team had not yet solved this person. "What's wrong, coach?" On the sofa, while reading the plan, Tobu noticed something unusual about Kotaro and couldn't help but look up at him. "It's the situation with the tennis department. The intruders this time seem a bit complicated, but they haven't solved it yet." Kotaro informed Tobu of this situation. "A bunch of trash." Okamoto cursed inwardly. Originally, he suffered a disastrous defeat to Tachibana University in the quarterfinals of the national competition, which made Tobu very unhappy. As soon as he returned, he began to study the next training plan. At present, faced with such a challenger, Shehu and his team have been unable to solve him for so long, which has made Tobu quite angry. Bang! Just as I was about to get up, the office door was suddenly pushed open. Subsequently, Tobu saw Hinata running in with a panicked expression on his face. "Swobe, things are not going well. A guy broke into our Ice Emperor tennis department and even defeated Shehu and Feng." Originally, they were cursing the Shehu and their useless followers about this matter, and their brows furrowed. Okamoto knew that Xiangri came to find him, mostly because of this matter. But defeated Shehu and Feng. If I remember correctly, it was only a few minutes before the other party arrived here. I can't remember the exact number of minutes, but it definitely didn't exceed 10 minutes. 10 minutes, defeat the two main candidates of the Ice Emperor. In front of the windowsill, Kotaro's eyebrows were also furrowed. Earlier, when he saw Ninzu fighting with the other party, he thought to himself that the person should have stronger strength and Ninzu had not been able to solve it for a long time. This made him realize that the strength of the newcomer should not be simple. Now, Xiangri actually told them that the other party had even defeated Shehu and Feng before this. How many minutes to defeat Shehu and Feng? How could this be possible? Take me over. Akimoto stood up directly from the chair. Obviously, Tobu also realized the seriousness of the matter. If either Shirhu or Feng takes action and fails to solve it for a long time, he may still think they are useless. But now, both Shirhu and Feng have lost, and it is still in such a short period of time, which undoubtedly proves that it is not Shirhu and Feng's waste, but their opponents are too strong. Subsequently, Akimoto left the office, and Kotaro followed along. He also wanted to see what kind of person it was, who was so strong. After all, even players at the level of Tezuka and Sanada cannot defeat their two main players, Ice Emperor, in such a short period of time. New book released seeking support. A new book by the elderly with a theme of Mangfu, ensuring quality. The update is as follows. Every day, there is a minimum of 4 updates, with 1 update for every 5,000 fresh flowers. There is no upper limit. The evaluation ticket will be updated with 1 chapter for every 300 votes, and there will be no upper limit. Every 10 chapters of a monthly ticket will be updated with 1 chapter, without a cap. The beginning of a new book cannot be separated from the watering of the readers. I hope everyone can provide more support. Thank you, the author. Chapter 5. My grandfather's strength is also different from yours. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. When Tokamoto and Kotaro arrived at the tennis department, they saw the defeated Shigo, Higashi, and Nishinobu fighting against each other on the field. However, the situation of endurance is not very good either. Although it is better than Shirhu and Feng, they are still being suppressed and beaten by the other party. Just this person's physique. Yes. Both Akimoto and Kotaro were shocked by their physique. A height of 185. And even though wearing a coat, the bulging muscles can be vaguely seen. Where did such a robust guy emerge? Ishida-in from the 4 Heavenly Treasure Temple was the most robust one they had ever seen, but none of them could compare to the person in front of them. Ashikaga, you're here. On the side. Shirhu and Feng, who were sweating profusely, immediately walked over when they saw Tobu approaching. At the same time. On the field, Ninja, who was fighting against Beiming, breathed a sigh of relief in secret when he saw Tobu coming. Who? Finally, Tobu has arrived. Outside the stadium, Shirhu tried to explain the situation to Akimoto before and after he arrived, but was interrupted by Akimoto reaching out. Needless to say, I already know the current situation. Say it. Tokamoto took the racket from Shirzua's hand and turned towards Nishinobu in the field. Be patient and step back. With a nod of patience, he wisely stepped down. He was well aware that the person in front of him was not something he could fight against, and the reason why he chose to confront the other person was only to delay time and drag it onto Mobu. And now, Tobu has arrived. His task has also been completed. However, due to the opponent's strength, Renzwa still reminded him as he passed by the side of Subu. Be careful. This guy's strength is very strong. Especially powerful. I got it. Tobu nodded and stepped into the field. And inside the stadium, looking at the entrance of the track, Beiming couldn't help but laugh and say, has the main player finally arrived? The reason why he suppressed the members of the Ice Emperor in this way was to force the appearance of the Ashikaga clan. After all, the other party is the actual controller of the Ice Emperor. The most important level to lead the Ice Emperor is this trace. Only by defeating Subu can he lead the Ice Emperor. Upon entering the arena, Tobu looked at Beiming across from him and said with a low gaze, how dare you come and cause trouble for our Ice Emperor? Your courage is commendable. To be honest, Tobu is very angry. In today's quarterfinals of the national competition, they suffered a devastating 0.3 defeat to Lehigh University, which is not enough. Unexpectedly, another guy has appeared now, causing trouble for their Ice Emperor and even defeating many of their main choices. It's okay, isn't it? Beiming shrugged and said. After all, Ice Emperor is a team from the top 8 of the national competition. Everyone wants to challenge themselves, right? Just. At this point, Beiming's gaze swept towards Shihu and Feng, who had suffered a disastrous defeat off the field, as well as Ninzu, who had exited. Then he turned his gaze and looked back at Mobu, saying with a slight smile. It's said to be one of the top 8 teams in the national competition, but it seems like it's just that. There's not a single team that can play this guy around. Many members of the Ice Emperor team looked angry, including the regular team members. But with the precedent of the previous disastrous defeat of Feng and Shihu, as well as the suppression of Ninja's feat as the second in command of the Ice Emperor, they were too angry to speak up about Beiming's arrogant attitude. Haha. On the field, Tobu's gaze also darkened. He glared angrily at Beiming and said, "You have the guts. You're the first one to dare to say such things to us, Ice Emperor. Just say this to you, I won't let you go of this game." Yeah. Regarding this, Beiming gave a faint smile as he carried his racket and grinned, "It depends on whether you have the ability. The competition begins." At the bottom line, Tobu lightly tapped the tennis ball a few times and grabbed it. Immediately, he lifted his head and stared at Beiming on the other side, saying, "No matter who you are, if you dare to cause trouble with my Ice Emperor, I will make you pay the price you deserve. Say it." With a slight tightening of his right hand, Tobu threw the tennis ball into the air, lifted it sideways, and hit it with a racket. Bang! The sharp sound of hitting the ball sounded, and the tennis ball was like an arrow departing from the string, instantly hitting the field of Beiming. The powerful force splashed away all the smoke and dust on the ground, and then stirred up a considerable amount of smoke and dust. Afterwards, don't think that defeating our 2 main candidates, the Ice Emperor, will make you invincible. My strength is not on the same level as theirs, said Chubu in a deep voice, is that right? Regarding this, Beiming gave a faint smile, and then he took a step forward and hit the tennis ball heavily with a heavy slap. Bang! Tobu only heard a loud explosion, and in the next moment, the tennis ball was heavily slammed behind him. 15.0, a ball falls. Surrounded, the members of the Ice Emperor Society were all stunned. This guy actually received a serve from Tokumoto's hand and scored. This kind of power. In the crowd, the pupils of the patient's foot, who had just retreated, shrank. Even more fierce than when fighting Shihu, Feng, and against him. So, did this guy still retain his strength when competing with the 3 of us? Suddenly, Ren's gaze towards Beiming changed. But in reality, it's not just about being patient. Shihu and Feng are also like this, their faces have changed greatly. They couldn't tell that this guy had some reservations when competing with the 3 of them. Even without exerting all his strength, he was able to easily defeat them. Who is this guy? On the court, Tobu's face slightly changed. At that moment, he didn't even see the opponent's path clearly. Turning his head, Tobu looked behind him, but in the next moment, his pupils shrank. The ground surprisingly sank. I know. At this moment, the voice of Beiming came from the opposite side, and Tobu turned around to see him looking at him with a smile on his face. Your strength is not on the same level as those 3 people before. But I forgot to tell you that my grandfather's strength is also not on the same level as yours. Chapter 6. Suppressed Trace. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I forgot to tell you that my master's strength is also not on the same level as yours. Hegemony. Be arrogant. At this moment, it appeared vividly on Beiming's body. However, none of the Ice Emperor's players felt that Beiming was arrogant. On the contrary, they were all shocked by the power of Beiming's just shot. Especially when their gaze fell on the sunken ground behind Tobu, it made them even more afraid of this challenger. How strong the force is needed to make the ground sink. However, This is the mindset of the surrounding Ice Emperor team members, and as the opponents trace, it is a different mood. The shameless guy dares to say that I'm not in the same class as you. Tobu stared at Beiming and angrily said. You should know that even those at the level of Tezuka or Makita dare not say such things to him. Bang! In a fit of anger, Tobu picked up his racket and aimed it at Beiming to hit it again. However, Tobu was not completely angry, even though the other party spoke wildly, he still deeply understood the power of the ball just now. Fast speed. Strong and powerful. Not inferior to some national-level experts, even stronger. Faced with an opponent with comparable or even stronger strength, no matter how foolish, Tobu dare not be careless. Immediately. After serving, he lowered his body. At the same time, concentrate and try to see through Beiming's hitting. But Beiming's return was too fast, even though he had experienced it firsthand. This time, Tobu still couldn't see it clearly. Bang! 30.0, did the opponent score again? Seeing that Tobu had lost points twice, the members of the Ice Emperor immediately panicked around. If even the Trace Department cannot deal with this guy, then their Ice Emperor's face will be completely lost. However, Renzwa didn't think so. On the contrary, he laughed. Undoubtedly, it's Ashikaga. Without a doubt. Tracy is observing the opponent's ball path, and with his insight, he should be able to see through with just a few shots. Bang! As expected. The next goal, Tokamoto saw through the opponent's path. I saw him take a step out, focus on the trajectory of the tennis ball, and swing it with a single stroke. Bang! The sharp sound of hitting the ball rang out, but just as everyone thought that Tobu was about to return it. However, Tobu released his racket. Subsequently, the racket and tennis ball took off together. What's going on? Even though he hit a tennis ball, why did Tobu let go of his racket? I'm not sure either. For a while, doubts echoed everywhere. However, Beiming nodded in appreciation and said, not bad. I knew I couldn't pick it up, so I released the racket at the right time. I have to say, you, the Minister of the Ice Emperor, are more powerful than I imagined. What? Many members of the Ice Emperor's team changed their faces. The other party actually said that the ball just now was a racket released by Tokamoto because he knew he couldn't catch it. Suddenly, their gaze swept towards Mobu, and upon seeing the latter's gloomy gaze, they immediately believed in what Beiming had said. But the shock in their hearts was even stronger. What a terrifying force. On the court, feeling the power of the previous ball, Tobu's gaze couldn't help but sink. He now knows why to hold back and remind him to be careful, especially with the other person's strength. Really, this guy's strength is not average strong. Even Shi Tianyin from the Four Heavenly Treasure Temple, and the strength of Jintian, who stands tall in the sea, are far less powerful than this person. However, whether it was Tobu or not, although he was somewhat surprised by the opponent's strength, he did not panic. Going back to the bottom line is another shot. Immediately, he lowered his body and fixed his gaze on Beiming. This guy's strength is very strong. I'm not a match for him when it comes to power clashes. So, we have to win through skills. Think of this. Facing the return ball from Beiming, he first used his hands to resist the force in the tennis ball, and then gave a certain degree of spin in the tennis ball. I'll see how you catch this ball. The best way to return a spin ball is to use the chopping technique. If you hit it head-on, the tennis ball may even fly off the court. The other party is such a big guy, in the eyes of Tobu, their skills are definitely not strong enough. If nothing unexpected happens, this ball will be kicked out of the field by the opponent. Is this a spinning ball? On the other side, looking at the ball played by Okamoto, Beiming laughed. What is Okamoto thinking? How can he not see it? It's probably because of his big stature, his skills are definitely not strong enough. If we conquer him with skills, we can definitely win. Unfortunately. You're a bit too smart. The words fell. Beiming immediately swung out. However, as expected by Tokumoto, the scene of the tennis ball being hit outside the court did not occur, and the ball unexpectedly hit his court straight. What? Seeing this situation, Tobu's face couldn't help but change. Across from him, Beiming carried his racket and said, "You have a good idea. You know how to use your skills to conquer me. But I have never said that my skills must be weak. This person. Off-site." Kotaro frowned and looked at Beiming in the field. Not to mention its strength, even Shi Tianyin from the Four Heavenly Treasure Temple cannot match it. The other party's technology is surprisingly so powerful. Being able to easily resolve the spin of the ball just made by Tokumoto, the opponent's conservative technique is estimated to reach 4 points. Speaking of which, Barrett, were you just like this? On the side, Xiangri looked at Minzu, who nodded and said. At first, I thought this guy had strong strength. If he used his skills to conquer, he should be able to win. As a result, the other party managed to resolve my spin ball one after another. At that time, I just realized that the other party was not only powerful, but also very skilled. Bang! Bang! On the court. The two sides were engaged in a swift confrontation. However, it is said to be very fast, but the scores are mostly from Beiming. In an instant, Tobu was taken over by the opponent's serve. How could it be? Around. The members of the Ice Emperor were all stunned. Even Shobu is not a match for this guy. Chapter 7. Is this a wave ball? You are listening at novelfull.audio. At this moment, all the players of Ice Emperor were stunned, including many regular players such as Hinata and Shigo. They didn't expect that Tokumoto was suppressed at the beginning of the game and was easily broken by the opponent's serve. However, the most unsightly expression on his face was still that of Tobu. As the minister of the Ice Emperor, his soul-like existence is now being suppressed by such an outsider, which greatly stimulates the self-esteem of Tobu. So, at the beginning of the second round, Tobu launched a fierce attack. Looking at the fiercely attacking Trace, the Ice Emperor and his companions once again ignited hope. The opponent is very strong. But Mobu is not weak either. As a national-level expert, his strength is already extremely strong. Looking at the whole country, there is no more than one hand that can surpass Mobu in strength. Most importantly, this battle concerns the face of their Ice Emperor. No matter what, we cannot lose. With this in mind, many people began to cheer for Okamoto. In an instant, the strong cheers echoed through the entire Ice Emperor club. Is this the Ice Emperor? Feeling the repeated cheers, Beiming smiled faintly. Although the original work also introduced the scale of Ice Emperor, a club with over 200 people, personally experiencing it was completely different. If an average person is in such a situation, they may be scared and urinate directly. Even some powerful individuals will be affected and unable to exert their original strength. But I'm not an ordinary person. With a smile on his lips, Beiming turned his head to look at the crazily attacking Trace on the opposite side. Also, I don't like having so many people shouting around during my competition. So, just use this ball to make them shut up. Creaking. Suddenly, Beiming's right arm swelled up in vain, making waves of mechanical sounds. Afterwards, he took a step back and put on a posture. Hey, Shirhu, do you think this posture is a bit familiar? Xiang Ri exclaimed in surprise. It does seem like I've seen it somewhere before. Shirhu nodded thoughtfully, and after a moment of contemplation, he finally remembered. I know. This is the posture of Ishida from the Four Heavenly Treasure Temple playing wave balls. This year's national competition, although the Ice Emperor did not encounter the Four Heavenly Treasure Temple, as a strong hero in Kansai, they watched the competition at the 4 Heavenly Treasure Temple on site. Among them, apart from the current minister of the 4 Heavenly Treasure Temple, Shizanasuk, the most impressive one for them is Bald Head Stone Tianin. That guy's wave ball is quite powerful. Therefore, when he saw the posture put on by Beiming, he immediately thought of Shi Tianin from the 4 Heavenly Treasure Temple. Yes. It's just a wave ball. Upon hearing what Shihu said, Xiangri's eyes lit up instantly. But soon, his eyes were shrouded in terror again. This guy actually knows the ultimate move of Ishida-in from the 4 Heavenly Treasure Temple. It's okay. Although Shihu recognized it, he was not worried. On the contrary, he said, although the power of the wave ball is very strong, it can still be parried with the strength of the trace department. Surprisingly, it's a wave ball. On the court, Tobu frowned. He also recognized the posture of Beiming. However, Chubu was not worried at all. Instead, he sneered, "You want to use the wave ball to deal with me? It's a good idea, but unfortunately, the wave ball is not feasible for me." In the view of Tobu, the wave ball only works for players below the national level, and for national level experts, it is only a slightly threatening ball. Fear is not enough. My wave ball is different. With a faint smile from Beiming, he slammed the tennis ball out. It's useless. As he watched the tennis ball shoot towards him like a laser beam, Tobu shook his head. No matter how different, it's also a wave ball. Immediately, Tobu put on his posture, focused on the tennis ball, and lifted his racket to welcome him. However, the trace that was said to be useless the previous second changed in color the next second. Wait. This ball. Puzzy. In the next moment, Tobu's racket was directly pierced by Shinsei. Watching this scene, the once boiling Ice Emperor tennis department was instantly silent. Well. Finally, it's quiet down. Feeling the silence around him, Beiming grinned. Outside the court, looking at the pierced racket by Akamoto, Hinata said with an incredulous expression, "Akamoto didn't take it. Why is this happening? I'm not sure either." Shihu is also confused. In theory, the wave ball should be able to catch with the strength of the trace. Result. Unexpectedly, like those opponents who used to face Shi Tianin, the racket was pierced through. And only Akamoto himself knows about this. Just this ball. He discovered the difference between the Beiming ball and the Ishida silver wave ball, where the power of the opponent's wave ball was entirely concentrated internally. Across from him, Beiming held his racket and said to Tobu, "Didn't I say that? My wave ball is different." Upon hearing this, Subu furrowed his brows. When he looked at Beiming again, his gaze completely changed. Not only is it powerful and skilled, but it also possesses a more powerful wave ball that is completely different from the stone sky silver from the 4 Heavenly Treasure Temple. What kind of person is this guy? After a moment, Akamoto turned around and walked outside the field, took out a racket, and returned to the field. He really wants to know the other party's identity, but Akamoto knows better that this is not the right time to think about it. The top priority is how to win this game, which is the key. Thinking of this, Tobu's gaze became resolute. Not bad. As he looked at the resolute gaze of Tobu, Beiming couldn't help but nod in admiration. Others were suppressed by him like this, piercing through the racket and probably didn't want to fight anymore. However, this trace did not give up at all, and this perseverance alone is worthy of recognition. So, Beiming took out another tennis ball from his pocket and said, "Then let me see how long you can hold on from my hands." In the previous matches, neither Shihu nor Feng persisted for more than 3 minutes in his hands. Although the duration of Ninja's feat was longer, if it weren't for the appearance of Akamoto, Kirami was confident that he could make Ninja's feet fall within 5 minutes. At present, for the Minister of the Ice Emperor, Subu, Beiming wants to know how long the other party can hold on. 5 minutes. 6 minutes. Or 7 minutes. Chapter 8. The Powerful Beiming, 1. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The strength of Mobu is very strong. As a sophomore in the country, his strength has reached the national level, and indeed, as the members of the Ice Emperor said, he can surpass Mobu's strength by no more than one hand. But unfortunately, he encountered Beiming in this game. In the past 3 years, Beiming has built its own strength to be incredibly powerful, and its 5 dimensions have reached an astonishing 29 points, which is 2 points higher than the current level of U17.2 Seed Island. How can Tobu be an opponent? In the second round, Chubu was ruthlessly strangled by Beiming. However, Tobu's perseverance is also very strong, not only because of his strong self-esteem, but also because this game is related to their honor as the Ice Emperor. They have already lost to Tachibana in the quarterfinals of the national competition. If they are defeated by a challenger like Beiming again, even if the members of the Ice Emperor don't mention it, Tobu will not be able to bear it. So, in the third set, Tokugawa displayed a more powerful offensive. His crazy attack was like a fierce beast, and for a moment, there was a tendency to push back the attack of Beiming. Undoubtedly, it's Ashikaga. Shirhu's face reveals its essence. Although the opponent's strength was terrifying, the powerful fighting spirit of Tobu left him deeply shaken. Like an indomitable warrior, indomitable. Oh. On the field, Beiming laughed. It's a bit interesting. He also felt the strong fighting spirit of Ashikaga. No wonder the other party could stand at the pinnacle of the Ice Emperor, making everyone submit to him. I have to admit, this guy from Akamoto is really strong. Bang! At this point, the tennis ball hits back at the trace and suddenly goes online. Is it online? Beiming smiled. But in the next moment, he noticed Tobu's gaze, not around him, but on his racket. So that's what you're calling attention to. Without a doubt. Akamoto is planning to launch his waltz towards destruction. Just thinking about it, after being attacked by him for so long, how could Tobu sit idly by? This man will definitely try his best to score. However, although he understood the intentions of Swobe, Beiming did not pay much attention and allowed Swobe to launch an attack. At this point, Chubu rushed to the front of the net and saw that Beiming was not aware, and a hint of madness flashed in his eyes. After all, that's all. Say it. He jumped up fiercely, aimed at the handle of Beiming's right hand, and smashed the tennis ball fiercely. Here we go. Ashikaga's ultimate skill, marching towards the shattered waltz. Shirhu's eyes were filled with excitement. Even though he has seen this move many times, he will still feel amazed when he sees it again. On the side, there was also a hint of brilliance in Renzua's eyes. Unlike Shirhu and others who have only seen it off the field, Ninzu has personally experienced this move. About a year ago, when he first arrived at the Ice Emperor, he used this move against Tobu in a confrontation. So, he is even more aware of the power of this move than Shirhu and the others. In his opinion, even if Beiming is strong, he will definitely not be able to resist the move of Subu. Additionally, not only that, being hit with a flying racket can to some extent dampen the opponent's fighting spirit and enhance Tokumoto's fighting spirit. For the currently suppressed trace, this blow can be said to be crucial. And at this moment, on the court, the tennis ball that was hit by Tobu was only half a meter away from Katami's racket handle. Seeing this, a hint of excitement flashed in his restrained eyes, and he almost saw the scene of the opponent's racket being smashed away. However, the scene that followed dissipated the excitement on the faces of all the selected Ice Emperor, including Ninja, and was replaced by a strong look of surprise. They found that although the ball hit the opponent's racket handle, it did not fly the opponent's racket. How could it be? This is impossible. Especially Shirhu, Fong and others are all staring wide-eyed. Since joining the Ice Emperor, they have never seen Akamoto slip up. Furthermore, This kind of strong dunk is impossible for a normal person to block. Even strong players at the levels of Tezuka, Sanada, and Yukimura, if hit on the racket handle, in their eyes, the racket will definitely be knocked away. Surprisingly, this guy in front of me doesn't have any. Similarly, Kotaro was also extremely shocked. He also couldn't believe that the person could still hold the racket even after being hit on the handle. However, the most shocking moment still belonged to Okamoto. At this moment, his expression was dull. His unstoppable skill, the waltz towards destruction, surprisingly did not work for this person. Across from him, Beiming smiled and said, "So you had the idea of flying my racket. Unfortunately, your strength is weaker. If it weren't for that, you would have really succeeded." "Is your strength weaker?" Kotaro naturally didn't think so. As the coach of the Ice Emperor, he was well aware of the power of Tobu's dunks. If an average person is hit, there is basically no possibility of holding the racket. In previous matches, all opponents encountered by Tokumoto were hit with flying rackets without exception. In other words, it's not that the waltz of Okamoto's march towards destruction is not strong enough, it's that this person is too terrifying. This guy's grip has reached a point where even a waltz towards destruction cannot be shaken. I have some skills. On the field, after experiencing the initial shock, Tobu quickly calmed down. Immediately, his gaze locked on the tennis ball that flew backwards in mid-air, jumping up. As he watched the actions of Tobu, the shocked Ice Emperor's eyes lit up again. They forgot. The waltz towards disruption, although a one-part dunk is important, the scoring point lies in the two-part dunk, which is just the groundwork for the two-part dunk. Although this guy's racket hasn't been knocked off and hasn't completed the groundwork, as long as he can score with a two-part dunk from the trace, it still dampens his morale. Don't think it's over like this. In mid-air, Tobu suddenly swung his racket and aimed it at the tennis ball, accumulating all his energy. Bang! A loud bang. The tennis ball was like a scorching bullet, slamming heavily into the field of Beiming. Immediately. "I forgot to tell you, this blow is the key to my move. The previous blow was just a preparation for this one," said Tobu with a smile towards Beiming. "I really didn't think of that." Beiming pretended to be unaware of the way, and immediately, his gaze locked onto the racket on the ground, swinging his posture. "But when it comes to being scored by you, that's not entirely true." The words fell. Beiming's racket swung out accordingly. Subsequently, amidst the stunning gazes of the Ice Emperor crowd off the field, a tennis ball flew straight out and slammed heavily behind Tobu. Suddenly, the entire Ice Emperor once again fell into a state of silence. Chapter 9. Where did this person come from? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Bang! Game. Beiming, 3.0. Soon, Tobu's serve was broken. However, the team members present at the Ice Emperor were still immersed in the opponent's attack on the waltz towards destruction. It's too scary. Is this guy really a junior high school student like them? Junior high school students. Suddenly, many members of the Ice Emperor's team looked towards Beiming. A height of 1.85 meters, with a sturdy body and long red hair. From the appearance, this person is at least a high school student, and even an adult is highly likely. Thinking of this, the members of the Ice Emperor team breathed a sigh of relief. Although this challenger is very strong, he not only defeated three main contenders including Shirhu, Fong, and Ninzu in a row, but also left no room for defense against even the Ashikaga clan. But thinking that the other person is a high school student, or even possibly more, they don't feel embarrassed. Defeated by a senior person, if this spreads, their Ice Emperor will not be laughed at. After all, there are inherent differences in strength among different ages. In terms of strength, it is not an exaggeration to say that high schools and junior high schools in Japan are like natural barriers. Although Tobu's strength can be considered strong in junior high school, it may only be considered decent in high school. Of course, this is the idea of a member of the Ice Emperor team. Ibu doesn't think so, although he can also see that the opponent is not a junior high school student. But no matter what, if the other party openly challenges their Ice Emperor, he, as a minister, must defeat this person. However, Chubu is not foolish either. From his previous encounters, he can see the strength of this person. He didn't even get a ball in 3 innings, so a strong attack is definitely not enough. To win, perhaps we can only defend. Thinking of this, Tobu's eyes regained their usual calmness. In the upcoming showdown, he began to defend comprehensively, using 2 hands if he couldn't stop with 1 hand. In short, he stabilized the situation first. Additionally, Okamoto doesn't think he doesn't have a chance either. After all, his greatest skill is in endurance warfare. When the opponent's stamina is depleted, the attack naturally weakens. And then, his opportunity came. There is hope. Thinking of this, Tobu regained his fighting spirit. Haha. As he looked at the trace that had reignited his fighting spirit and even strengthened his defense, Beiming grinned. He doesn't know what Okamoto is thinking. If you guessed correctly, the opponent should be trying to engage in a prolonged battle and deplete their stamina. Truly worthy of being a trace. Even at this point, I never gave up at all. On the contrary, I even came up with a certain strategy. Unfortunately, you can't stop me. Yes. In the previous showdown, Beiming did not show all his strength, not even half of his strength, which raised the illusion of being able to block him. Only Beiming knows how terrifying he is with all his might. In the past 3 years, he has blasted through more than 500 walls. That kind of power is not something that Tobu can resist. Although facing Swobe, Beiming couldn't exert all his strength, he still wanted to tell Swobe. You can't stop me. The thought fell, and Beiming's gaze locked on the flying tennis ball, taking a step out. This kind of posture. As his eyes fixed, a sense of danger rose in his heart. But he is still confident, even though his opponent is strong, he can still resist with all his strength in defense. That's good. The more you increase your attack, the faster your stamina will be depleted. When your stamina is exhausted, it's your time to die. With a smile on his lips, it was as if he had seen the other person fall into his trap and be squeezed dry step by step. At the end of the day, a big guy is a big guy. Even if he has strong strength, his mind is not very agile. That's right. In the eyes of Swobe, Beiming is a reckless man with brute force, but his practical experience is far less skilled than those veteran generals. Immediately, Tobu once again put on a defensive posture. At the same time, Beiming also took action. The muscular arm clenched the racket and aimed it at the tennis ball with a bang. Boom. However, at the moment when Beiming's racket collided with the tennis ball, Tobu's face changed. The sound of hitting the ball was like thunder. The next moment, a tennis ball that, although not a wave ball, gave Tobu a more terrifying feeling than a wave ball, flew towards him. This power. Renzuo was startled, and soon his gaze looked incredulously at the figure across from Okamoto, who looked like a wild man. In the previous game, this guy didn't give it his all yet. Beside him, people like Shihu, Feng, and Xiangri also noticed this, and for a moment, their mouths were all wide open. However, the most touching part is still the trace in the standing field. At this moment, he only felt a shell coming towards him. Spell it. With a bite of his teeth, Tobu held his hands and used all his strength to face him. Bang! However, his strength is not worth mentioning in front of Beiming. When he comes into contact with a tennis ball, the power he imparts to the racket is like being destroyed. Afterwards, with a snap. Unlike before, when Tokamoto voluntarily released his racket, this time Tokamoto's racket was thrown away by Xingsheng. And the entire person of Tobu was also shaken by this force, causing him to retreat in a series. If it weren't for his extensive experience, this blow would have been enough to blow him away. But even so, this scene still shook the entire Ice Emperor. Even the coach of the Ice Emperor, Kotaro, opened his mouth slightly. Immediately, with an incredulous expression on his face, Xiangri said, "You're lying. You're lying." Tobu used his hands, but he couldn't even stop it. This is really unbelievable. The nearby Shirhu was also full of shock. Is the trace strong? That's naturally strong. His strength is recognized by both Shirhu and Xiangri. True national level strength. However, with such a strong trace, at this moment, he didn't even grip the racket, and even used his left hand. Shocking. Fear. Eyes converged on the tall and powerful figure in the field. Where exactly did this person come from? Stronger than a person at all. Even in the high school world, they feel that there are few people who can compete with this person. Chapter 10. Entry into the Ministry. And the Minister's Change of Ownership, 3. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 5 minutes later. Accompanied by a goal from Beiming, the game ended. 6.0, surprisingly, Ashikaga didn't even get a share. At this moment, the whole scene was silent, and the play was in uproar. All the players of the Ice Emperor were shocked by the power of Beiming, including the coach of the Ice Emperor, Kotaro. Unlike the members of the Ice Emperor team, Kotaro has a wide range of knowledge, and he also has a good understanding of the high school world. In my impression, it seems that there is no such figure in the Japanese high school community. Not to mention, the strength is still so strong. Who the hell are you? On the court, Tobu knelt on one knee and rested his hands on the handle, supporting his shaky body. Undoubtedly, Tobu suffered a double blow both physically and mentally in this game. If it weren't for his perseverance and resilience, he wouldn't have been able to hold on until the middle of the game. However, precisely because of this, Tobu became increasingly eager to know the other party's identity. Who exactly is this person? What is the purpose of the other party challenging their Ice Emperor? Beiming Abyss. Beiming said his name. Beiming Abyss. The eyebrows of the trace department furrowed slightly. Who is this? Off the field, Kotaro was also pondering this name, but had no information at all. A completely unfamiliar name. After all, with the strength of the other party, there is no reason not to know. On the field, Beiming put away his racket and came to Tobu, saying, "Although I won this game, your performance is better than I imagined." Haha. This statement fell into the ears of Ashikaga, only making him feel it was a satire. Not getting a single point is also commendable. And all around. Many members of the Ice Emperor team only hope that the other party leaves as soon as possible, and they don't want the other party to stay here for a second. Many of the main candidates, including Ninzu, Shido, and Hinata, also hope that the other party can quickly leave after defeating Tokumoto. However, the expected departure did not occur, but the other party made a move that puzzled them. Only see. The other party turned around and came to Kotaro, taking out something similar to a letter from their arms. This is my application for joining the department. Application for enrollment. On the side, many of the top candidates, such as Shido and Xiangri, were wide-eyed. Even the genius who had transferred from Osaka and earned the title of Ice Emperor, was stunned. Wait. Are you talking about this guy? Then, as if realizing something, these people looked at Beiming in unison, with a strong sense of disbelief in their eyes. But in the shocked eyes of the crowd, Beiming smiled and said, "I am a new transfer student." New transfer students. Beiming's words stunned all the members of the Ice Emperor team. Previously, they speculate that the other party may be from a high school department, or even a university department, or an adult. After all, which middle school student has this physique? Now, from Beiming's mouth, they know that the other party is actually a junior high school student. For a while, everyone has their mouths wide open. It can be said that this incident is even more impactful than the tragic defeat of Ashikaga. This burly guy is actually a junior high school student. Kotaro was also stunned. Like everyone else, he didn't expect that the other party was only in junior high school. Subsequently, he took the application for admission from Beiming's hand and glanced at it. What caught the eye was the other person's name, Beiming Yuan. Subsequently, it's the other party's academic year, 2 years and 3 classes. 2nd grade. Kotaro looked up and saw the Beiming, who was much taller than him. This guy is only in 2nd grade. Also. At this moment, Beiming spoke again, facing the people of the Ice Emperor. I remember the system of the Ice Emperor seems to be a complete authoritarianism where the strong can become the school team. In other words, as long as they are strong enough, they can sit on the school team, no matter what academic year, even one minister can do it. Does this guy want it? Shuhu's heart sank. Everyone else is the same, and vaguely, they seem to know what the other person is trying to say. That's right. Amidst the anxious gazes of the crowd, Beiming smiled and said, since I have defeated the Trace Department, then Minister Ice Emperor should be mine. Suddenly, everyone fell silent. Although the system of the Ice Emperor is indeed like this, and this system was still established by the Ministry of Rights. Complete strength doctrine. Anyone who is strong enough can become a school team, regardless of the academic year, even if they are a minister. But on the first day they joined the Ice Emperor, the other party openly challenged their Ice Emperor tennis team and even defeated Maru. They wanted to sit in Maru's position, which inevitably made them a little unhappy. But the rules of the Ice Emperor are here again. For a moment, facing the words of Beiming, they didn't know what to say. Kotaro also doesn't know how to reply. On the one hand, the system of the Ice Emperor is indeed as the other party claims. On the other hand, the other party did indeed defeat Okamoto. In terms of the system of the Ice Emperor, it is not appropriate for the other party to take the position of minister. But the problem is, the other party has just joined the Ice Emperor, so they have taken on the position of minister. This has a negative impact when it comes to spreading. Beiming saw that everyone was silent, so he said, I see. It seems that the so-called complete authoritarianism is just talk. As soon as these words were spoken, many members of the Ice Emperor's team looked extremely ugly. The minister is yours. At this point, Tobu, who had not spoken yet in the field, spoke up. He walked towards Beiming with his racket in hand. Whoever defeats me can become a minister. This is also what I personally said when I joined the Ice Emperor. Since I lost this game, it's understandable for you to be this minister. Ashikaga. Suddenly, many people turned their gaze to Okamoto, but when they were about to speak, they were interrupted by Okamoto. Needless to say, it's me who's not as skilled as anyone. It has to be said that Okamoto is Okamoto, and this aura is not comparable to other members of the Ice Emperor. Indeed, the minister has more magnanimity. Beiming smiled and said, Humph. Don't be complacent. Although you have taken away the position of minister this time, this position will be regained by me sooner or later. I'll let you sit down for a while, said Swobe with a cold snort. Say it. Okamoto left without looking back. However, no one noticed that as he left, Tobu's right hand holding the racket clenched slightly. It's obvious. Ashikaga's inner peace was not as calm as he appeared on the surface. He was openly defeated by the opponent in front of all the Ice Emperor team members and took away his position as minister. This is undoubtedly extremely shameful for Ashikaga. But Ashikaga's heart is still proud. Although he has given up the position of minister, he will find a way to regain it. Once his strength exceeds that of Beiming, Tobu will challenge Beiming.